Hello, beautiful students. We are going through our Kindred essay planning guide. We're going to read through all of the prompts and you will end up choosing one. You should be annotating the one you choose, so I'm going to do it as we go. So our first prompt, in a novel by William Styron, a father tells his son that life is a search for justice. So this prompt is going to be about justice. Choose a character from Kindred who responds in some significant way to justice or injustice. Then write a well-developed essay in which you analyze the character's understanding of justice, the degree to which the character's search for justice is successful, and the significance of this search for the work as a whole. So if you're choosing this prompt, you're going to break it up into three pieces. So the first piece is this part in green, in which you analyze the character's understanding of justice. So what is the meaning of that? How do they define that? The second part of this prompt is going to be this part in blue, and that is the degree to which the character's search is successful. So are they successful? Are they not? To what extent are they successful, and why or why not? The third part of this prompt would be the significance for this search as a whole. So this is throughout the novel, what is the significance of the search for justice? What is being revealed? What is shown through this search for justice? So basically think of the theme or message. Okay, so this prompt is all about justice, and you would kind of break it up into these pieces because we're doing a 5-paragraph essay. So you would have at least 3 pieces to be analyzing. The second prompt is talking about cruelty. So in literary works, cruelty often functions as a crucial motivation or major or social political factor. In Kindred, acts of cruelty are important to the theme. Write a well-developed essay analyzing, so this would be your first part, analyzing how cruelty functions in the work as a whole. So how is it used? You would also be analyzing what the cruelty reveals about the perpetrator, and you're analyzing what the cruelty reveals about the victim. So if you choose this prompt, you're thinking all about cruelty. So the first part is how cruelty functions. So is cruelty in the book used for a tool of power? Is it a hierarchical device? Is cruelty symbolic? So you're digging into how cruelty is used in the book. What is the dynamic of cruelty? The second part of this prompt is what cruelty reveals about the perpetrator. When a perpetrator, the person using cruelty, when they use cruelty, what is being revealed about them? What is their dynamic when they use cruelty against somebody else? And the last part of this prompt is what does cruelty reveal about the victim? So when cruelty is used against somebody, the person receiving that cruelty, what is being revealed about them? Are they weak? Are they brave? Do they fight back? Do they not? What is being revealed about them, and how could you explain that? Throughout all of this, you want to be thinking about the meaning. So it is asking about themes, so then that means within those body paragraphs, probably more specifically within body paragraphs 2 and 3, you would be weaving in what that also means as a message. So what is important for readers to take away? So if it shows something about a perpetrator and cruelty shows something about a victim, and what that reveals about each, what is the meaning of that? Think about how you defined cruelty, right? How it's functioned. So what is that function revealing, right? About each person as a whole. How can people learn from this? Okay, so our second prompt is about cruelty, and our third and final prompt you could choose is about contrasting places. So many plays and novels use contrasting places, countries, cities, houses, land, sea, to represent opposed forces or ideas that are central to the meaning of the work. So again, we have a theme that we're thinking of. All 3, you want to be weaving through a theme. This one, you're obviously showing different ideas. So it's talking in the prompt about opposed forces or ideas. So that means you want to be talking about differences. So Kindred contrasts 2 such places. Write an essay detailing how the 2 places differ, what each place represents, which could be split into 2 paragraphs, and how their contrast contributes to the meaning of the work, the theme. So this last part I highlighted in gray because you could be weaving that throughout the other body paragraphs, or if you would like, you could put these together as one and then write a separate paragraph about the significance as a whole. So this one could be split up in different ways, but I think a a nice way to do this would be splitting up what each place represents. So this would look like, first, how the places are different. So you would say, well, we have literally 2 time periods. So the 1900s, present, versus 1800s, right? So they're literally different places, but also in what ways do they differ? So are you thinking they're different in their ideologies? Are you thinking they're different in their beliefs, their social norms, expectations, education, rights, status, etc.? So in what ways are they different? And so you'd find data to kind of support to present how these places are different in the first paragraph. In the second paragraph for this one, if you choose to split up the blue and pink that I highlighted, you would then talk about what each place represents. So one paragraph would be about the 1800s and what that symbolizes, right? So how is the 1800s being represented? And throughout that, you would also be talking about how that contributes to a theme. So what does the 1800s represent in your argumentative writing? What would be your argument for what that place represents? What are the beliefs there, and what does that represent? So a little deeper than in what ways they differ, but what is it actually representing? And then what does that kind of contribute to as a message? So then that third paragraph would be about the other time period, so the 1970s, right? The present day. So you already mentioned that they're different, but in what way is it different? So specifically, what does it represent? It's going to be different than the other paragraph about what the other paragraph symbolizes. It should show something different. And what does this place represent instead? And what is that then showing? What is that contributing to? How does that lead to a theme, some kind of message that you want to come up with, right? So there's different ways to write this one, but I think that could be one way to go about this prompt that could set you up nicely for a 3-body paragraph essay. So once you choose which prompt you want to write about, you will annotate it to make sure you understand it, and then you would restate it in your own words here. You want to make sure you have 3 points that you're addressing, because we're doing a 5-paragraph essay, so you should have at least 3 points that you're addressing. So once you do that, you're then going to complete your steps 4 and 5, and ultimately you will write your thesis. So very quickly, you will identify the meaning of the work, so the theme. You want to do this in terms of your prompt so that you can use this idea in your writing. But in order to understand your theme, that message, you first want to identify what are some topics that relate to your prompt. Not just topics in the book in general, but specifically looking at your prompt. So if you're doing the first prompt, you're definitely thinking about justice, for sure. But what else contributes to justice? What else is relevant in the book in terms of justice? So you would write down all the topics that you could think about in terms of your prompt here. Everything that comes into play. So there are some examples here. This isn't an all-encompassing list. It's just a place to kind of start. So again, you want these topics to relate to your prompt. So pause this video, look at what prompt you chose, and write down all the topics you could think of that connect to your prompt. Now you should have all the topics written down for your prompt, and now you're going to write your theme statement. So this is not your thesis. This is just a message that you think will kind of be woven out throughout your writing. Again, each prompt is asking about a theme, so you definitely want to think about that before you get into your writing. So again, theme is this message that kind of unifies the story, something that you want to take away that people can apply to their life. So you don't want it to be a cliche like knowledge is power, right? That's very cliche. What is the complex meaning that you could actually teach somebody about? It shouldn't use characters' names. So you wouldn't say like, Dana is brave, because that is very specific to her. But okay, if you're talking about her being brave, then what does that show? What does that reveal? What's the message that can be learned? So read through these elements. There is a sample from the new Colossus for you, but you're going to write your own theme statement. Think about your prompt. Your theme should come from your prompt. So think about your arguments you might be presenting. You already wrote down all of the topics that you think connect to your prompt. You've already done that. So look at everything you wrote. Think about combining some of those topics that you wrote about that deal with your prompt. Put them together to create this message, something that can actually be learned from these ideas that are brought into play. So something that can be learned is usually something that we want to apply to our lives. So not just everything ends, what can actually be learned? So put together some of these topics. What can be taken away that people can then apply to their lives? Some message that's going to make people reflect and be like, oh yeah, that is something that can be done, or is true or that I want to think about that is a complex idea. So pause this, write down your theme statement, and you want to keep that in the back of your mind. Once you have your theme message, this idea woven throughout your body paragraphs, we're lastly going to write our thesis statement. So you are going to type this. You want to type it because you're going to reuse this. You want to copy and paste onto a draft later. You're going to want to send it to me in an email. So you want it typed so that you can easily transfer this. What you're going to do is answer the questions in the prompt, but you need to create your own argument. So you can't just restate the words. You can't just say, for example, if you're doing the first prompt, you can't just say that a character understands justice, their search is successful, and this is woven throughout the work. There's no argument there. That's just you using the prompt words. Use the prompt words, but create an argument. Which character? What is their search? Is it successful? Is it not, right? So go back to how you annotated your prompt and what ways it's getting broken up, and then you need to create your argument based on your prompt. This thesis should be one complex sentence. It should address 3 points because you're writing a 5-paragraph essay. So there should be 3 clear ideas laid out in your complex thesis. This should be one statement. Use the prompt as a guide. Remember, in formal writing, we need to stay in third person present tense. And I have also given you a nice link of guided slides that could really help you here. But the biggest thing is to look at your prompts, think about your ideas, and create an argument that you can then base everything else off of. This is your umbrella that everything else will relate to. So remember, your thesis is that big umbrella, and everything else is going to relate to this. So it should have 3 ideas so that each body paragraph will connect to this nice complex thesis umbrella statement. And I should be able to see your thesis and clearly see what your 3 body paragraphs are going to argue. Once you write your thesis, go ahead and email it to Miss Bocchino so she can give you some feedback. Type it up though so she can actually copy paste some feedback from there. Here is the slides. If you click into this, they could be helpful. It also talks about claims, but you don't need to have that done yet. So you want 3 clearly stated points. I'll let you scroll through this on your own, but just to show you, there's an example from our last essay with the new Colossus. There is an example from this essay, an example using the 3rd prompt, an example from a prompt that isn't on there, just to show you how to kind of split up a prompt into a complex thesis statement. And then some things to kind of think about and remember. Remember, each prompt asks about a theme, so try to weave that message throughout as well. Good luck, you've got this, and come ready to keep moving forward.